Good afternoon, and welcome to Todd Clint's SharePoint Podcast number 349. Wow. Recorded live Monday, August 14th, 2017. I am your host, Shane Young. That's right, not Todd Clint, because, well, Todd is escaped the country again. You know, all these shenanigans, all this talk about locking down the U.S. borders, and Todd keeps leaving, and I keep hoping they'll go follow through with it one time and just lock him out of the country for a couple weeks, months, you know, whatever it takes, because let's face it, how nice would that be? Would also finally give us a chance to rename the show. No, I mean, think about it. How many times have I hosted this show by myself and had to be, welcome to Todd Clint's podcast? But Todd's not here. It should be the Shane podcast, or the Shane and Todd at the very least. But what do you do? Anyway, my name is Shane, if you don't know who I am, and you can hit me on Twitter at Shane's Cows, or good old bold zebras if you're looking for any SharePoint, PowerShell, Azure, Office 365, Power BI, pretty much any Microsoft tech consulting, I got your back there. Or my good old YouTube channel, Shane Young Cloud, for the bestest. All right, so some quick production notes. Todd created the RSS feed differently last week. So last week's show, and then of course this week's show, the RSS feed is different. So if you're having any issues, any hiccups with that, please let us know. We're trying to get all those type of things ironed out, because one of the things we want to do after we rename the show and get a new logo that isn't a weird looking bird is we're going to do we're going to try and get on some more of the platforms. And I know some of the platforms, you know, they require stuff to be in a very specific RSS format and different type of meta tags and things like that there. And so we're trying to kind of work some of those out as we move in that direction. So that is there. And really, that's all it is in the production notes. I guess the other thing is that this show will be produced really late because Todd is in some foreign land, and, well, I don't know how to produce the show, or I'm not willing to learn, whatever way you want to look at it. Either way, we should be in good shape there. So, jumping into topics. The first one I wanted to talk about today was, I got an email from Barb D, and I just want to give her a shout out. She was looking for some SharePoint training, but her email literally led with, "Hi, long-time listener, first-time caller here." And I just thought that was great. She showed a little personality. I responded back with something equally inappropriate for a business conversation, but, you know, it really kind of solidified our relationship right away, that we both kind of got the humor, and she's been listening forever, so she feels like she knows me. She knows about my kids and my dog and all that stuff, and I'm like, hey, hi Barb, nice to meet you. So anyway, shout out to Barb for that. I enjoyed that email from her. Speaking of me producing the show on my own and all the fun that goes with that, so this morning, good old Brad Sams, if you guys aren't familiar with him, right? Him and Paul Thrott do several different things, and one of the things they do is the First Ring Daily. So they have a show where they kind of cover today's news in the enterprise and technology space, especially for the Microsoft ecosystem. They also do a bunch of other content for some different web properties. Pretty popular guys out there. You know, their show might be one of the few shows in the world that's bigger than ours. I mean, really, you know, it's like Sesame Street, our show, and then their show, and the order of number of viewers, I think. But anyway, Brad needed some help this morning, so he gave me like 5 minutes notice, and he had me on, and he's like, "Man, you are the greatest co-host I've ever had for this show." So, you know, Todd needs to hurry up and get me, you know, put a ring on it, right? He needs to get this show rebranded in my name before I get swooped up by one of the bigger channels and taken away. So that was pretty cool. On the show today, we talked about a few different things. It wasn't on the agenda, but I managed to weasel it in there. I got to complain about how terrible I think the Google G Suite is. So he really appreciated my idea that it's great. It works well unless you have to use it for work. So he really appreciated my hatred of the G Suite. We also talked about the fact that Consumer Reports has been saying that the Surface is no longer recommended. And so we kind of got into some of the logistics of that. But basically the way that works is Consumer Reports kind of looks at hardware like the Surface in a 2-year window. So they go backwards for 2 years, and they look at the reliability, the issues, the return rates, things like that over this 2-year period. And apparently Microsoft just recently fell over some threshold where they decided they are no longer recommending the Surface. So Brad and I kind of talked through some of that, and we think that really what it's linked to was the issues. If you remember when Surface Pro 4 first shipped, there were those little facts that it pretty much didn't work, right? Surface Pro 4 and the Surface Book, when they came out in that window, they had a lot of issues for the first couple months. And so we're thinking, I think the Surface Book had a 17% return rate at that time. The Surface Pro had a 16% return rate. So we're thinking just the skewing there has happened. But overall, both him and I both use Surfaces pretty regularly, and we're both very happy, and we feel like the enterprise adoption is still going well. So I don't know, it was fun to kind of talk through that with someone else who kind of had a different perspective. Paul Thurrott had also this weekend wrote an article from a leaked internal Microsoft memo that kind of showed their quality stats internally. I'm guessing it's not an accident that they leaked the report that showed their quality numbers were really good to Paul, but we won't judge. Either way, the other thing we talked about there was the Surface Hub, and how it was interesting to hear Brad's perspective. They thought, well, the Surface Hub was never going to see any adoption because it costs too much. The 84-inch costs, I think, $22,000. First off, I really want an 80-inch TV, so I'm kind of jealous. I don't know if 22,000 is the right number for me, but I want an 80-something inch TV. But $22,000 for conference room equipment is actually not a lot of money. So we kind of talked a little bit about how I didn't think that was slowing adoption, and we got into the personal assistant space, and the Cortana's, Cortana's not on the Surface Hub, and so we thought that was kind of a bad play because we felt like it opened the door for the Amazon Echo or the Google, I don't know even what they call that thing, to jump in there and take the spot, because we do see a future where corporate America relies on these personal assistant devices to kind of start doing things. So, I don't know, it was a fun conversation. Unlike my normal co-host, Mr. Clint, I actually was able to have an intelligent conversation about something other than, the kid topics that Todd likes to drag us down to. So it's a good show. I recommend you check it out. It is one of their premium content, though, so I don't know if there's a way to get a free trial just so you can watch me on their premium show, but if you try and find it and you can't, let me know, and I'll happily help there. Let's see. So that was fun. Another one here. So Todd left me a link to a PowerShell module browser. So Microsoft has released this little guy, and it's supposed to help you find all the Microsoft PowerShell packages that are out there in the world. So that way you can, go out there and type in Azure and be like, oh, here's how I get the Azure package. It has that particular commandlet. I'm assuming it's just having a bad day, because I tried to use it this morning and it was not working for me at all. But the Azure stuff was showing up, but I typed in SharePoint and Get SP Site and PNP and a couple other things I really thought would be in there. I thought I was tossing it some softballs, and it couldn't find any of those. So I'm assuming something is just broken with it today. But either way, check that out if you get a chance, and let me know if you have better results. And kind of keeping with the PowerShell theme, because, PowerShell is one of those things I enjoy. Last week, I got to help a customer, right? One of the big things I've been doing lately is just support calls. So kind of back to my old original SharePoint 911 days, right? Where I just hop on with somebody for 15 minutes or 30 minutes and fix problem X or problem Y and then never hear from them again. It's a great relationship. It's a lot of my dates, right? I get that first date in and then it's over. I like to think, because I leave them very satisfied, unlike when I was dating the women and I felt like I left them going, why did I ever agree to this? Anyway, got to do a little help there. And so one of the things we had to do for the lady I was working with was we needed to set up her People Picker for PowerShell, or set up her People Picker for her web apps, because she had 3 different domains, or 3 different forests trusted to hers. And so we wanted to add all those and make those available through the People Picker. And up until this point, I'd always done it by STS-ADM, right? STS-ADM, enable or set property value, and then property name, blah, 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 blah. But I went in this time and actually did it through PowerShell. So that was kind of a fun one. So really, the long story short with that, all you have to do to see those settings in PowerShell is you go out, you get the web app, right? So get SP web application HTTP portal, set that to a variable. So $cow equals get SP web app HTTP portal, and then you'll do $cal.peoplepicker settings, and then you'll see all the different fields that are available to you, and then you just literally set them, right? So in our case, we need to set the domain, and so we would set the created a domain object and then put that in there, and we did that for all the different domains you need to trust. It's pretty easy, no IIS reset required, right? It just up and worked. So would definitely recommend, checking that out if you haven't been doing it, or if you've been putting it off because it seemed like it was one of those things that was really hard. The other fun thing about it is I always just enjoy exploring and finding new properties on new objects. Now, I can tell you though, I've spent most of the day trying to do some provisioning templates for SharePoint Online. It's been very painful and very terrible, but I always enjoy just going and digging and hopefully finding the answers, because as Todd taught us very early in life, anything can be done with PowerShell. So I'd also like to point out that Dave Ackroyd would like me to fix his printer. So there you go. I got another consulting gig coming up tomorrow. I'll be fixing his printer. I'm assuming it's something to do with it drives on, the printer drives on the left side of the road instead of the right side of the road, right? Dave being from across the pond. So I think that's probably Dave's problem. So speaking of Dave, he also wanted me to pimp for you guys. There is a PowerShell day in London coming up. Looks like it's September 22nd. So he is not presenting, but he's hoping to get to speak. But if you are over there in the UK, it might be worth checking out. It looks like their big focus, it seemed like, was DevOps, from kind of looking at the schedule of the content stuff. Either that or they were just really good at marketing and they knew that DevOps was kind of the thing that people were had their hearts set on. Either way, it looks like all the early bird discounts were gone, and I don't know, it's 100 something, not American money, so I assume it was pounds, but they use all those funny symbols. I'm not very smart, so it could have been 100 cats, like the dog that Todd was trying to fight over there in Europe. But either way, something worth looking at. They buy things with chickens over there, it turns out. That's what it is. So I knew. You hail to the queen and purchase things with chickens. I wonder if you have to carry the chickens around, kind of carry them on your hands. I don't know how that works. Either way, another piece here. So I saw today that our friends at Target, right, the store that I've never went into without spending $200, it is somehow a trap. But man, if me and my wife go in there to pick up, one little thing, it costs $200 to leave that store. It's just like a price. But Target, they've been trying to solve this whole same-day delivery, right? So clearly Amazon is kicking their butt and, forcing a lot of people to go and do their thing, right? Chewy's really mad about Amazon as well. But so Target have been doing some test cases of same-day delivery in New York, and they've been working with a third-party technology company to facilitate all of that. And I guess it was going so well that Target got excited, and Target just bought that company to hopefully roll this out and control it faster. So I kind of have mixed feelings about that. I mean, yay, good job for the startup, right? I always like to see startups get acquired. It means they were building the right thing, and some people had the right plan in place. But I worry about it from Target's point of view, because the whole reason that they were using someone like that to do it is it's the innovator's dilemma, right? It's really hard for companies to think about doing things in a new, fanciful way, because it just, we've always done it this way. We've made billions and billions of dollars. Why would we change? So they went outside, they got somebody on the outside who didn't think that way to do it, but now that they acquire them, it's really hard to keep their hands off, right? It's really hard to say, oh yeah, we bought you guys for innovative thoughts, and we're going to leave you alone. Oh, but we do need you to fill out this one TPS report because, we just need to do that. So we're not going to mess with anything, but, just one TPS report. And then a month later, it's like, well, you guys are great. Keep innovating. We're really enjoying your entrepreneurial spirit. But we have this budget thing over here, and we need you to fill it out before you guys can spend any more money. And, 6 months later, a year later, that you've taken a startup that was driving change and a different behavior for you, which is what you needed, and you've made them part of your machine, and all of a sudden, you just can't, they're just not effective anymore, and the whole acquisition ends up failing, and you're like, man, why did we ever buy those guys? They're terrible. Never admitting that really the problem was that the company that, the Target buying them is what messed up the whole project. So I hope that doesn't happen. I am a big Target fan, but that would be my advice to the Target board of directors and C-suite. If they were looking for me, I'm sure they all listen to the show, so they'll get the update. But it's one of those challenges, right? And it's just the corporate mentality. The same type of deal, when I worked in Megacorp, right? Megacorp was the same way. They didn't want innovators. They didn't want people who thought outside the box and rocked the boat, right? They would tell you they did. They'd stand up there and have meetings. Hey, it'd be awesome if all you guys would come to us with new ideas and you would just go and implement them and change the world. But then it turns out that, well, when you're doing that, you're not doing the thing that they're planning on you to do. That they measure you based on the spreadsheet for, right? They got your performance goals, and you didn't check these 4 boxes. You made the company $100 million over here, but you forgot to check this box where you go to the company lunches every 3 days, and write a poem or something. So I don't know. I'm always a little cautious of that. So and I see that old Daniel Glenn is in the chat room cracking on me for being a startup expert. Mr. Glenn, I can tell you that I have spent nothing over the 18 months. I have worked with nothing but startups for probably 2/3 of it. And I would not call myself an expert, but I definitely have gotten to see a lot of the plight of the startups in that amount of time. So it's been very interesting. One of these days, when Todd's here, we should sit down and just do a show that just talks about really geared towards startups and kind of the challenges they have. It's a whole different world, right? This whole idea of I'm going to create a company and I'm going to ask a whole bunch of people for a bunch of money based on a promise, and see what it can turn out to be. And the people are like, oh yay, we believe in your mission, but then they kind of mess with them, and they mess with their mission because it needs to conform. And there's a lot of that stuff that I have. I've seen a lot of issues and a lot of mistakes. The other interesting thing, since Daniel's got me off topic, thanks for that, Daniel. And yeah, I know you were just kidding. I still love you. But maybe the first time I've ever blown you a kiss. How'd you like that? Was it nice? Anyway, the other big challenge there when I talk to people, especially, seeing these older generations. So some of these people that are, have been in business for a long time. Maybe they had a startup back in their 20s, but that was 20 or 30 years ago. And so they're ready to do it again. It's been interesting to work with one of those recently and see the, I don't want to say mistakes, right? But they're running the same playbook that they ran 20 or 30 years ago, and some of the challenges that presents, because while that playbook worked great for them the first time, and it probably will work again this time, there's just so many new ways to do things, that they don't even want to consider just because they've done it the old way and it worked last time. Things like, do you need office space, and do you need a phone system, and there's a lot of those type of things that, especially in the early days, you can skip out on and save yourself a few bucks. So, either way, I don't know. I don't want to get off on that tangent too much, but that'd be a fun show. I think when Mr. Clint gets back, maybe we'll just do like a special episode that's really just geared up on the startup world, because I think it'd be fun. Or you can email or tweet us and tell us, no, this is the type of content you want on the show, instead of me talking about PowerShell all the time, for example, and we'll just do it on this show. All right. And Dave Aykroyd would also like to make sure that we know that the After Dark show, he is still waiting on that, and he'd like that to be first before we add any startup shows. So good to know, Dave. Good to know. I think that's a lot of what I had set for coverage today. The only other thing I'd kind of throw out there, was getting some questions earlier. I've had the Tesla now for a couple weeks, and we know that Todd's very jealous, and Todd's wife is very mad. So I say all in all, my car purchases went very well. One of the fun things about the car, though, is, if you plug it into a 110 outlet, right, the same outlet you plug your PC monitor into, the car charges about 3.5, maybe 4 miles per hour, right? So for every hour it's plugged in, you get about 4 miles back into the battery. It makes it really hard to kind of keep and sustain at your house. So what 99% of Tesla owners do is they put a dryer plug, right? I think it's like a NEMA 1040 or something like that. It's not like the IRS form, but some type of NEMA plug. It's the same one you use for a dryer. You put that on its own outlet in your garage, and then you charge off of that, and it charges 29 miles per hour of being plugged in, which is pretty easy to get your battery topped off on a nightly basis. Now, whether or not you should always be topping off your battery, it's a conversation for another day. Anyway, the whole reason I was telling you all this is I needed a dryer plug put in my garage. So I was like, I'll call an electrician. And, they'll get that put in there for me real quick and life will be grand. It took me this entire time to find an electrician. I must have called 4 or 5 before I could even get one to return my phone call. And so, when Todd's wife was complaining that, if he gets a Tesla, he's ruining one of the kids' college funds. I was like, well, the kid doesn't need to go to college. Apparently, if these electricians are any indication, we should all quit these computer jobs and go become electricians and house contractors, because it sounds like those guys just have more business than they know what to do with. And I mean, kudos to them. So, that was one of the interesting challenges for it. I guess the other fun thing, right? I don't know if I'm supposed to admit bad things that happened in the Tesla, but the wife went to get in it yesterday, and it wouldn't come on. Like the screen and all that just wouldn't come on, and we had to reboot the car to drive it. So there you go. It didn't have a blue screen of death yet. I'm hoping I see one of those one day, but literally had to. There's 2 buttons you press, you hold them in for 10 or 15 seconds, and it rebooted all the onboard computer stuff, and we're able to drive the car along. So it was just kind of interesting. So it was just kind of fun to see. Having to actually deal with it. So it is a computer. It does get updates. It does do all that stuff. But knock on wood, it has been fabulous other than that so far. So I knocked on my fake wood desk. That counts. So good little car. All right. So shameless promotions here. Once again, Todd he's in Europe right now. He's going to come back. He's going to turn around and go back again. He'll be in Estonia, September 6th through the 9th for the SharePoint Exchange Forum. Then he will he will definitely be at Ignite in Orlando, September 25th through the 29th. He'll be doing the session and the podcast. I'm still trying to get there, but be one of my Microsoft complaints right now. If any of you got any pool, I really need help getting a pass. Apparently all my years of having top 10 scores and all that, not enough to get me in anymore. It's like you missed 1 year and like, Shane, who? Have you ever, do we know you? Can you fill out this application? So I've not had much luck getting a pass back. So kind of a sad thing. And then, so then Todd will go home. And then once again, he'll leave again. He'll go off to Slovenia, November 8th and 9th for the Thrive conference out there. So what does he even need a Tesla for? He's always in Europe. He needs a Tesla over there more than he needs one here in the country. So I don't know. I think that's all I got for you guys today. So hopefully you enjoyed the show, without Todd's annoying voice. And, I'll see you next week. So thanks and have a great day.